let me move on to a couple other issues that have come up. As board member Schweitzer noted, we have progressed in our negotiations with the ATU, and we are at the formal impasse stage, as I think we noted to before. The next step of this is the actual appointment of an arbitrator, which is done through the offices of the Employee Relations Board in the state of Oregon. And there's different processes we'll go through to accomplish that, but at the end of the day, there will be an arbitrator appointed, we hope that that will be within the next couple of weeks or so. We'll begin to know the direction there. That all occurs during this 30-day cooling off period that we're formally in the midst of again. And just to remind you of the process that we go through, there's actually then, once the arbitrator is selected and a hearing date, if you will, identified, then just a few days, 10 days, I believe it's prior to that hearing date, each side, the ATU and TriMet management would submit their final, best of final, so to speak, offer to the arbitrator, and the arbitrator then will have a hearing, I'll have a chance to review those, and there will be a hearing where he'll hear evidence about those proposals and how those proposals stack up to the criteria that are listed in state law. And then, based on those criteria, then the arbitrator would be asked to make a decision to pick either the ETU proposal or the TriMet management proposal, baseball-style arbitration. So again, the timing of that, the earliest would probably be a September arbitration date, but it will depend on scheduling. And I would probably say September would be the earliest, and probably, well, just based on the requirements of scheduling, all the people that are involved may float out a bit more later in the year. So again, I think mostly procedural update to you right now, no real update on the substance of where we are. Again, our final offers have been submitted to the ERB, both the union and the management, so those are available at this stage. Also wanted to, I've shared with you via email the news about FTA's funding decision on the Portland-Milwaukie Light Rail project. Again, it was not the news that I think we were hoping to get. We were proposing that they fund the project at 60% federal share, 40% local share. They came back with and actually we have a lot of thank yous to issue to our congressional delegation who worked very hard to try to secure that approval. At the end of the day, I believe it was really the fiscal environment in Washington, D.C. that sort of led to a different decision, which is the FTA funding the project at 50% federal, 50% local. There are a lot of challenges that sort of fall from that funding decision, but sort of a moment for the, if you will, the bright side of this is that the correspondence has been received by our delegation on this project, recommits FTA to the support of this project. I think the phrase that was used, this project has a strong justification, written by the FTA administrator. So that was good. And the other part is actually committing to the 50-50 share. And FTA would note that that for projects over $1 billion nationwide, their participation has probably historically been more on the order of 35, maybe 40%. So in that regard, I suppose the silver lining is 50% is still a good share, and still provides a dollar-for-dollar match for those local contributions we have. The challenge for us ahead, of course, is to resize the project to fit the available resources, and that will really be defined by what local resources we have available. And currently, that is about $600 million plus or minus. These numbers are all a bit fluid because they all include interest that sometimes will vary based on the scenario or calculation. But about $600 million, and so that in terms of resources on the table, it would be about a $1.2 billion project. That is, of course, still a very big project and a very big addition to our regional infrastructure. So we're beginning to meet with our project partners to begin to put together the menu of choices that are ahead of us. I think those choices will be hard, but in our conversations I've had as I discussed this news with our regional partners, I feel confident that there is a joint mission to project ahead, even at a reduced funding level. So we'll be working on that over the next few weeks, and obviously we'll be keeping you very closely informed as we develop that reformatted or recalibrated project. So that may be another place where we want to pause for a few moments for questions.
Neil, since we're still held over $1 billion to 1.2, that won't jeopardize the 50-50. You mentioned that the FDA was anything over $1 billion they were looking at. Well, we have a firm commitment on that.
You know, that's really the good news that came out of this. Is that, again, not the news we saw it, but in really the silver lining is that they have committed to it.
Yeah, my question was, though, on the readjustment, even though we go from 1.4 to 1.2, we still get the commitment.
Yes. And I would only say that there'll be obviously procedural complications as we move forward with a redefined project that we'll need to work through with the FDA. So it's not an immediate straight line, but we do know the path. I would also say that this is not unprecedented for TriMet or elsewhere in the sort of universe of major projects. Dr. Bethler chatting yesterday shared an experience in Boston when the line needed a second phase in order to actually achieve its ultimate goal of geographic coverage. And in our case, when I started working with TriMet, we actually had a floating commitment, if you will, floating terminus for the West Side Light Rail line, because at first the federal government would only commit to an extension to Sunset Transit Center, and then ultimately became 185th. And ultimately we added, through the new full funding grant agreement, the segment from 185th in Washington County to Hillsborough. And so, and as it turned out, they all opened on the same day. So these sort of phasing notions and considerations are not new territory for the region or for the program overall. And I think that's the direction that we'll obviously be heading towards.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Neil, obviously a 10% reduction in the federal government share requires a larger overall budget recalibration. I mean, you're looking at almost 20% change. So are you able to share what some of those considerations are that would accommodate that large of a project shift?
Well, perhaps we don't yet have what I would call a complete menu, but I can give you an idea of some of the kinds of considerations that are on the table. For example, one approach we've used in the past is to purchase only the number of light rail vehicles needed for the opening day or the opening day plus a few years of growth rather than the full 30 years of projected growth. That then also has repercussions in terms of the reduced size or requirements for maintenance facilities. So, for example, there can be vehicles and the maintenance facility can be part of this issue. We can defer stations and not build stations. We can reduce the size of park and ride lots over time, and again have the capacity to rebuild or build more in a phase two. The other part is that we can also look at the length of the line, and the project has been developed with this I don't mean to get into the lingo, but minimal operating segment, or MOS. The environmental work has MOS that would stop at downtown Milwaukee, as well as the full-length terminus that stops at Park Avenue. So those will all be parts of the consideration that we'll go through. I don't minimize that any of those choices will be hard, and obviously hard on some constituents, but it's always important, I think, to sort of recognize that there's still a lot of support for this project and a great deal of importance placed on it by our regional partners moving ahead with it.
And if I may, in the report, the preliminary engineering report, there's the schedule update with major milestones, targets to yet occur. how does this recalibration affect, for example, the federal EIS or any of the other dates that fall in rather near term?
I do think some of the near-term dates will slip out. Part of the answer, don't mean to be slippery about providing the answer, but the impact on those dates will be really defined by what those changes to the project are. So, for example, changes to the project that are already, if you will, included or analyzed in the environmental work today would have less of an impact on those scheduled dates than a brand new idea that had never been analyzed.
So seemingly the major date is occurs in bifocal context that is small. In respect to being able to proceed with a design build contract for in-water features next summer.
Right. And actually, we believe we have a little bit more time than that, but we're evaluating that. Again, this is all fairly new. My sense is that what was originally an October date to hopefully achieve a final design approval will be moving out exactly to where, I don't know. I can't predict right now, and it really depends on how the project is calibrated and what hoops we're asked to go through in terms of evaluating, improving revised cost estimates.
Other questions about Portland-Milwaukie? Not, do you have other comments?